Talk to your florist and say, I have this grand vision. Will this budget fit this vision? And if it doesn't, we can think about creative ways to get close to that vision.
Hi, I'm John from PGP Wedding Films, and welcome to Say Yes to the Best, where we talk to the best wedding pros to give you wedding planning advice. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, and follow us on Instagram. We have new content out all the time to help you with your wedding planning. And also go follow our friends at Pennsylvania Weddings. They have a lot of great content for people all over Pennsylvania. If you're planning your wedding, their blog is amazing content. And we go live on Thursdays with them, so you can ask questions to our pros to get help with your wedding. Today, I'm talking with Sarah of Allium Floral and Design. How are you, Sarah?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
My pleasure. We just got to do a great holiday shoot together, and your work was incredible. So I just knew that I had to have you on the show and get all of your insight for all of our couples planning their weddings.
I so appreciate it. We had such a good time on that shoot, and it's so fun because we're, thinking about the holiday season, and I'm really excited because it's snowing outside, so it feels like we have just the right time to chat about all this.
So could you, to start off, tell our couples a little bit about your business?
Sure. So Allium Floral Design and Event Styling has been around for almost 15 years now. We do primarily weddings and special events. We did just recently launch an everyday line, which is really exciting for our clients who want flowers in their homes all the time. But our primary, our love, our focus is definitely weddings. In non-COVID times, we do around 150 weddings a year. So lots of different sizes of weddings. But they're our passion. We love it. And we also do the styling component. So it's not just florals, but we like to kind of create a cohesive look for our clients. So whether it's maybe we want to bring in some furniture for a lounge that feels appropriate. Maybe we want to deck the room with candles that are just right. So we are part of that whole process.
So with that, and obviously there are such a big range of what you can do at your wedding. You can just have simple centerpieces to you have the whole ceiling covered in flowers. So could you kind of give our couples a little bit of an idea of what's kind of the different ranges of what they can expect to invest from kind of the DIY beginning stages to going all out with the most amazing florals that they've ever seen at a wedding?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, sometimes we get this, usually the first email someone sends to us will say, hey, I'm getting married on this date at this venue. How much will my flowers cost? And we're just like, wait, what? I don't know what flowers you're choosing. I don't know how many flowers you need. How big is your wedding party? So I think, it's always important to start from the very beginning of the planning process and say, okay, I know that my wedding's going to be about this big. I'll have maybe this many tables. If you think about 8 to 10 people per table, we also want to think about how many people are in our wedding party. So those are important to start as we think about overall budget and planning. And then as we go, you'll really find that you want some inspiration pictures. So I always say, bring in all your inspiration pictures and let's think about the overall vibe you want to create. So obviously, if we are talking about hanging an entire ceiling full of florals or doing these massive, sometimes we see these gorgeous staircases with flowers all running up them, those are a little bit pricier. They take a lot of expertise. They take a lot of time to create. So we're always mindful of doing a design that is going to both work with the average budget and then also take some items that they really want. So I always say, think about the one wow factor. So what's your priority? What do you want to do? What's this one piece that you want to have your guests walk in and say, yes? So maybe that's an incredible sweetheart table. Maybe that is something that is right as someone walks in, a really neat entry point, or even a place where you want to take pictures, like an Instagram setup. So I think those are all really good options for you. In general, as we're talking about pricing, so I usually say, our average wedding is, from a flower perspective, is between $3,500 and $4,500. And that's 150 people, a decent amount of tables, that kind of thing. When you start talking about flowers in the ceiling, that's a $40,000 or $50,000 investment in the ceiling itself. So, there's a lot to really consider. It's so hard because we say, find these inspiration pictures, and then people come to us with their Pinterest boards. I always wish that Pinterest would let people put little price tags on the bottom of it so that you could say, oh, I love that. My flower budget is not $200,000 for my wedding. So I think it's kind of one of those things where you want to use the inspiration pictures, figure out where you feel comfortable spending. Figure out, are flowers my priority in my wedding? If so, then maybe I'm going to spend a little bit more. I also think sometimes there's this famous pie chart, which maybe as videographers you get too. But it's like this section where they say, okay, flowers should be 10.2% of your wedding budget. And so if flowers are your priority, then no, it should not be 10.2% of your budget. It should be more. So we find that we tend to work with clients who we do really cool, interesting, different flowers. Texture is really important for us, like unusual, amazing design. So for us, you want it to be a priority, right? Now, that's not to say that there are certain flowers that are really expensive. So if you are in love with peonies, those are a really expensive flower, and that is going to, there's nothing quite like a peony, so I can kind of substitute a rose or a garden rose, but I'm not going to get that exact peony look. But it is a way to think about substituting and how can we work with the budget that you have to get as close to the look that you want.
Yeah, I feel very similarly about those pie charts. I think that they're like in theory great, but not every single wedding is the same, and not every couple has the same priority. Some people are going to value the flowers more than others. Some people are going to value their photo or video in different proportions. So, take those sort of things, estimated budgets, with a grain of salt, because there's really no wedding one size fits all sort of setup. So if a couple isn't quite sure what is the right floral fit for them, what would be a good place for them to start to research?
So I always say, go get yourself on Instagram, and Pinterest is really, really helpful that way. Both of those, Pinterest operates as a search engine. So I think it's really nice if you have specific colors in mind. You might say, pink and purple wedding flowers. Okay, a huge array of different ideas come up, and you can see what style you are personally drawn more to. So maybe your wedding is in a gorgeous ballroom and you want this like huge, dramatic, classic kind of pieces. Then you'll see some styles that fit with that. Maybe your wedding is outside and it's like casual and comfortable and you just want this very organic botanical look. You'll find some images that fit that. So when we are meeting with clients, the first thing we always ask them is, if you had to describe your wedding, what words would you use? So I think if you start out figuring out that feel or that vibe, you can very easily search. Even Google Images is a great place to search for like purple boho wedding flowers, and then see what comes up and see what you feel drawn to. I think that's a really great piece of the search process and the design process is to really make sure that whatever you choose resonates with you. Not just like, okay, I've seen this 100 times, so I guess this is what wedding flowers look like. No, there are no rules. So what should wedding flowers look like to you? What do you want it to feel like? Is it going to be a garden? Is it going to be something that is very simple and modern and clean? So I think using those terms while you're searching for your flowers is going to help you to really fine tune, so that by the time you meet with a florist, you can already say, okay, this is my style, this is my vibe. Here are some pictures that I feel drawn to. Here's where I'd like to be budget-wise. Like, what can we create together? And I think the more freedom you give your florist, the more they're able to say, okay, you like this? We're going to run with it, and we can create something incredible. When you are very, very specific and say, I'm going to need 3 roses and 2 carnations and 5 sprigs of this, the more specific you get, the more it kind of reins in the creative freedom of your florist. And so you're going to find that your flowers aren't quite the same. You don't have the same opportunity for improvising on these pictures that you sent.
What are maybe some things that really can change the cost of the overall florals that maybe couples wouldn't think about? I think you might have touched a little bit about it when we were off air between like the height of centerpieces. Are there any other things like that the couple who's never planned a wedding before might just not realize has a big variation in cost?
Yeah, so high centerpieces are definitely a kicker. I always say that they cost between 3 and 4 times that of a low centerpiece. Because they have this elevated height, I need to have 3 to 4 times the volume of floral and greenery to create that look. The other thing people don't think about sometimes too is the fact that when your guests are sitting at the table, they're not spending dinner looking up. We need to do something at the base of those high centerpieces. So we're really creating a look below and a look above. And so that's where that cost really comes in. That's not to say, like, if you didn't have a certain budget, maybe you have a head table and you want to create these incredible high elevated centerpieces on the head table, and then maybe do some lower centerpieces throughout the space. So you just want to figure out what you have to spend, and then we can kind of play around with the different elements that we can put into that. And you may decide once you see your flower quote, it's worth it to splurge a little bit more to get this look that I want, because unlike your food, let's say, flowers really do set the tone for the entire wedding and the space. So that is your decor. So, what you're filming and what you're capturing on camera, like that, those are the flowers. So that's something important to be thinking about too. Other budget pieces, anything that involves an incredible amount of time for installation, like things in the ceiling, big pieces that look like they're growing up a wall, those are always going to be a little bit spendier, but the splurge is so worth it. I mean, it just absolutely changes the look of an entire space.
Everything kind of works in conjunction, and when you invest in your florals and the other elements, you're going to be investing in the beauty of the images you're going to have after the fact as well. What is the creative process of working with someone like you from start to finish, from the point that a couple's like, yes, we want to work with you, to we're at our wedding?
That is a great question. So we go back and forth a fair bit over the process. So I'll send out a proposal. After you send me all your ideas, we'll sit down, we'll chat about what we think is doable and what we'd love to create for you. And then you say, yes, we're going to move forward. So once you kind of sign that contract and do that retainer, then we work closely together to create this kind of moving document. So you might see an image that inspires you all of a sudden, and you're going to text that to me and say, Sarah, I love this. Okay, how can we fit this into the wedding? We may already have a really good idea right from the first meeting. Okay, this is what the wedding's going to feel like. But we reserve lots of time back and forth. I work with a wonderful team member. Her name is Colleen. And so between the two of us, we're emailing back and forth with our clients a fair bit to figure out what is the best possible design for you. And then we always have a consult 4 to 6 weeks out from the wedding, where we sit down and we really go through line item by line item and say, like, does this make sense in the overall feel of the wedding? I think that's always important to have that kind of recap, because sometimes when you start talking about your flowers 6 months, a year out from the wedding, you don't always know exactly, like, what is your mom going to be wearing? Maybe her wrist corsage isn't going to be the right thing. Maybe she needs to carry something handheld. So having that time to really think about it is so helpful.
So Sarah, what is just your favorite part of what you do?
Oh, I love creating something from nothing. So there is nothing like having spent this 6 months or this year planning with our couples exactly what we imagine their day is going to look like. And then we walk into this venue, a totally blank slate. And in a matter of, now granted, there's lots of hours ahead of time preparing the flowers, getting everything ready. But when you walk into that space and you take something from nothing to over the top, amazing, gorgeous, like, how did this ever appear in 3 hours kind of feel, there is nothing in the world like that. I mean, it is just my favorite part of every single wedding is creating that magic.
Sarah, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Allium Floral Design, all of their information is going to be below, as well as that holiday tablescape video that I had mentioned. All of her information to get in contact will be in the description below.
Thank you so much for having us. We had the best time today.
Thank you for watching Say Yes to the Best. Again, you can subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. New content out all the time to help you with your wedding planning. Thank you again, and happy planning.